Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. Look, we shouldn't feel too bad. This method has been very effectively used to manipulate and control populations for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But now we have the internet, and we must be striving to know the truth of significant events in real time. In a democracy, how are we possibly content with our government keeping such large secrets from us for up to 50 years, when all of the bastards are dead and by the time the info is finally declassified? But in this chess game, we've got to assume that they are many moves ahead of us, and they have prepared our reactions for us, leading us anywhere on the board we can be suckered into. We must stop letting them bait us, and must refuse the solutions promoted by the minions and the mainstream media, who compress all responses to given events into roughly two. Open source intelligence. In our modern world, post-information revolution, there's no reason to keep most intelligence secret. Secrecy is being used as a form of power and manipulation, enabling the most evil of human capacities. We are now ready to enter a new paradigm for intelligence and national security. If we publish all the information and intelligence we collect and make it public, it turns a significant part of the spy game upside down and puts the power into the minds of the masses to come to our own conclusions about what we as a country should be doing. Currently, all of the actionable intelligence is all funneled and usually only intentionally released, with no way for us to independently verify. I strongly urge my listeners to watch the 2008 film named Secrecy. It powerfully provides both sides of these issues of intelligence and secrecy, and is one of the best documentaries I have ever seen. If you haven't seen it, please move it to the top of your Netflix queue today. I will discuss open source intelligence more in an upcoming episode. One of the key issues is that legislation during a crisis is just the worst. And the big ballers playing at the level above the presidential puppet position sure know how to create atmospheres of crisis and perpetual fear. We are also being fed plenty of misinformation from both sides. On top of this, narrow narratives we are restricted to in the mainstream or congressional discussion have severely limited how rational, balanced, or effective our solutions are. No truth can be found on only one dimension, and our public dialogues really need to step it up and ditch the soundbite media in the digital dust. Even without crisis, the large pieces of legislation passed have most helped the same people who have already consolidated wealth and power. Corporations can spend 364 days a year hurting the world and donate 1 day's worth of profits to a charity to act like a good guy. Similarly, the few kickbacks we, the people, actually get from large pieces of legislation are usually far outweighed by the advancement of the goals of the corporate industrial complex. At least in my lifetime, I feel like the average has been 1 step forward and 2 to 4 steps back, indifferent to which party is in power. I would like to see this aspect of the problem improve with serious campaign finance reform and an end to political parties, or at least this duopoly. As something of a side note, I think what the old paradigm calls conservatives or Republicans, naturally more skeptical of government, are quite far ahead of liberals or Democrats in their understanding of the grave nature of these issues and the threats to our freedom. This despite the biggest false flag attack in recorded history, with the left's best enemy they could hope for, arch nemesis George W. Bush, in the puppet post, but we still couldn't get it going. And now our guy is in power, and despite doing very little to satisfy promises to the progressive left, if we are not vigilant and talking with each other about false flag attacks, we will be fooled. And the big ballers pulling the strings of the Obama administration, and of course the Congress, will be able to use the next crisis for whatever they have in store for us. We must understand that MSNBC, NBC, ABC, and CNN are just as bad as Fox, and will lie to us whenever needed and possible, even if they say things we like more. This is particularly important because of the natural cycles of politics, making this fall's election an uphill battle for the Democrats in power. Just last month, the Financial Times reported The bottom line here is that Americans don't believe in President Obama's leadership, says Rob Shapiro, another former Clinton official and a supporter of Mr. Obama. He has to find some way between now and November of demonstrating that he is a leader who can command confidence and, short of a 9/11 event or an Oklahoma City bombing, I can't think of how he could do that. End quote. Please let that sink in for a minute, and think about it later. We have seen countless public remarks like this over the years, over the last decade, from the neocons, like the report by the Project or the New American Century, PNAC, titled Rebuilding America's Defenses. Published the year before 9/11, they describe all the transformation they wish to see in the country and world. Then on page 51, they explicitly say, further, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. But Rob Shapiro's most recent comments are the most offensive similar comments which I have heard yet from the left. So we must remain 100% vigilant for any October surprises which may come this year or every 2 years. And we must do our homework if we expect to return to a free democracy. We can no longer afford to restrict our discussions and solutions to the mainstream paradigm, and open source intelligence must win. Whether or not this information is new to you, I recommend that all my listeners check out a brand new documentary which came out just in the last 2 months by Dan Dix with Press for Truth, titled United We Fall. It is one of the best films I've seen on the North American Union and its ties to the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderberg Group. It's definitely worth a watch, and you can find it free online. Now, it is true that when we discuss alternative theories to 9/11, we are talking about very shadowy circles of infinite power and danger, close to the centers of our country's public political arenas. The scope of these forces make one feel so awkward, scared, and vulnerable. I imagine it feels like a spider tiptoeing across your grundle. And it's no wonder that we all go through denial at first. It's taken most of us a year or two after learning this painful information before we could really look it in the eye, and often another year or two before we could talk to anyone about it. But don't be afraid. Most of us are in this fight because not because of fear, because we are angry, and we wish to counteract this evil we see with peace and love. We've simply looked at the evidence at hand, accounted for error bars on sources and information, and have found many alternative narratives to much more closely resemble the reality we all sense. Of course, please do not take my word for anything. Please do your own research, as this is the only way to come to your own conclusions. But if you get it, and you decide you agree, please go to change.org now and sign the false flag boycott. Because maybe, just maybe, we can force these topics to become common in our mainstream discussions of current events. And if we ensure that all of us learn all the lessons that we really need to learn from 9/11, then perhaps we can avoid these situations in the future, and those precious lives taken from our world will have not been lost completely in vain. Don't be afraid to talk about these issues with your family and peers. Please let the world know we are awake, we are mad as hell, and we are not going to take it anymore.
Do you carry that fire inside you?
You're the mainstream media with millions of dollars in the budget. How come we just got this very two-dimensional narrative?